Welcome back to Open Line. I'm Emily Luxen. Tonight we are talking about empowering women business owners. And if you would like to join in on that conversation, there is still time for you to give us a call. That number 615-737-PLUS. That number will stay on the bottom of your screen for the rest of this program, which wraps up at 8 o'clock. So we'd love to hear from you if you would like to give us a call. Tonight we are talking with Sherry Deutschmann. She is the founder and CEO of BrainTrust. We've been talking about this business that she started and has built from the ground up. And just for some people who may be joining us now, Sherry, recap a little bit about kind of how BrainTrust got off the ground and why this is such a unique business.
So as I was growing my first company, a $40 million company, I was a member of two peer organizations, WPO and EO, that were just really impactful to me in helping me navigate, what a company looks like at 10 million and 20 million and 30 million. And I often encourage other entrepreneurs to join those organizations, but they can't because you have to be at $1 million in revenue before you can join. So I started BrainTrust to help women get to that point where they can join some of these other organizations if they choose to, and then start, moving the business from $1 million in revenue to 5 million or 50 million or $1 billion.
And looking at, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go on.
And, it's not a networking group. It's not a support group. It is peer-to-peer learning, which is the fastest way that adults learn is from peers. And so it's really around experience sharing and not advice giving.
And just looking at your website, I love with it, it's posted, you've got the ground rules on there, and then some of those rules: be present, confidentiality, punctuality, and respect. And you've also talked about accountability. Why are these important kind of philosophies to keep top of mind?
Well, when you're put in a group with 6 other people, because our groups are 7 women who make up what we call a vault, they're spending their time and their money investing it in themselves and their businesses, and it's just wrong to show up late or to show up not prepared or to miss a meeting. And so we are religious about being on time and not missing meetings. It just doesn't happen. We take that commitment very seriously. And we also have accountability measures that most CEOs are lacking. So unless you've got a board, you're not really accountable to anybody as a CEO. So you can go out in front of your employees every week and state your goals, but there's nobody holding you accountable to them. In BrainTrust, there are serious accountability measures. So every month you report on key metrics or goals that you are pursuing, and then the next month you come in and report on those. And I had one member say that she had talked for years about getting a line of credit and hadn't done it. But she told her vault mates that she was going to get a line of credit, and she couldn't dare go back to that group the next month and state that she hadn't done it. So that forced her to take the steps to meet with the bank, and she didn't get a line of credit. She actually got a loan. But that accountability measure really helped keep her on track. I see that the women now having accountability goals like having an employee. So I want to add 2 employees, and then the measures might be, well, how many interviews did you do? And where are you getting those people to interview? And just holding you accountable to the end goal, which was to have employees, so you've got people working in the business so you can work on the business. So I think that the accountability measures are a critical part of this organization.
And so the meetings are always monthly?
They are monthly. They typically last 4 hours. And during the hardest months of COVID, I thought it was interesting that our members are required to meet every month for 3 to 4 hours, but many of them on their own decided that wasn't enough. And so in addition to that, they were meeting once a week for an hour just to check in and say what's going and how can we help you with your business this week. And so there's a great closeness and camaraderie that's being built. I mean, lifelong bonds that are being created with these women.
So it sounds like when you kind of have that month period, that gives you time to kind of work on whatever these goals may be, and then that gives you time to complete them and then check in at the next meeting. And it sounds like a lot of these steps may be small steps, but those are still critical in the big picture as far as seeing that forward progress.
Absolutely. One of the things that we do that I haven't mentioned is looking for awards and honors and press for our members. Women we don't often talk about our accomplishments. And so each one of our meetings is closed with what we call BT brags. And everybody gets the microphone for a minute and they brag about something they've accomplished. I think it's been interesting, the things that they've bragged about. One bragged about firing an employee, except she didn't have to do it anymore because she had somebody working for her that could do that, hire and fire. So that was a major milestone for her. But looking for ways to get the women the recognition that they deserve. So we nominated several of our members this year for the Next Awards. That is the Entrepreneur Center's annual awards to honor the fast growth entrepreneurs. And I'm thrilled to say that 4 of our members are finalists for the Next Awards. And our women have been featured in, Most Powerful Women and 40 Under 40 and emerging leaders and recognized in their industries. So sometimes we ask them, if you know of an award in your industry that we don't know anything about, tell us about it and we will nominate you. And so getting them some great press and attention that they deserve.
And I assume, as we've talked about, COVID impacted a lot of different aspects of life, but I assume these meetings had to go virtual during COVID, or are they still virtual? And has that had an impact at all on communication amongst group members, or has it not affected it?
Of course it affected it. It was a struggle. It is a struggle to sit to be on Zoom for 3 or 4 hours, but they powered through it. And just many of them started meeting again in person in late July. So they met outdoors or in spaces where they could have doors and windows open and a lot of great ventilation. And now they're requiring you to be, if every member in that group is not vaccinated, then they are still meeting virtually and will continue to. So I think that is an impediment, but they're dedicated to the process and continuing.
And and keeping those meetings going, I'm sure, was critical because they were facing such difficult times.
Yeah. I mean, at the beginning of COVID, we had, I think, 4 groups of 7 meeting in Nashville, and now we have 14 or 15. And many of them did their training. They did the interview process on Zoom. They did their training on Zoom. And then they, up until July, had never even met each other in person, had only met each other on the screen. And you're talking about telling people, real struggles that you're having in your business, like whether or not you can make payroll this week or your biggest customer just left. And so there's a lot of really deeply personal things that they're sharing. And it was awesome to see them meet each other in person for the first time over the summer. And sad that, because of the Delta, they were, having to go back to virtual, but they're going to survive.
Isn't it crazy that we didn't even know what Zoom was 2 years ago, and now it's such an integral part of all of our lives? It's crazy when you think back on that. But do you think it's hard for people to be vulnerable in these meetings? Because I know no one ever wants to admit failures or struggles. It's just kind of how we are, and I think as women we do that as well. But to be able to come out and say, I'm really struggling with this, or I could use some help on this, and being able to get that feedback, that would be kind of hard to do, I would think.
So interesting. In EO, this organization that I'm part of that was, pivotal to me starting this organization, one of the first exercises they do is called a lifeline, where you come to the table and you take 10 minutes and share the highest highs and the lowest lows of your life. And it's amazing. But that organization was originally set up just for men, and it's now co-ed. And so I think they must have designed it that way because men have a harder time talking about their problems and their failures and being that vulnerable. And so I was just, I took the best of what I experienced there to build BrainTrust and put that into our model So the women at the first meeting would start sharing that and realizing women don't have a problem sharing their deepest, darkest secrets, not like men do. And so it actually was not beneficial for us to start out that way. And we've now pivoted and are doing it a little differently, where we go right into having each woman give us her business profile and in-depth look at her business model, how she makes money, who her ideal client is, and how she charges for her services and her goods. And then later, after we've got the business stuff out of the way, then we can go to more of the getting to the other parts of sharing her life story, because it's not a thing that women generally are reticent to share. What they are reticent to share, though, is the numbers. So it's really hard for them to come to the meeting to say, my company has been in business for 10 years and we just did $7,000 a month revenue, when the person next to them says, well, I did $170,000 in revenue next month. And so that's a hurdle that we had to overcome to make the women realize we can't guide you to $1 million a year if we don't know where you are right now. And so having them be open and vulnerable when it comes to numbers is a hurdle that we struggle with, and now I think we're have overcome that, and to the benefit of the members.
Is there a set format for these meetings for the members, or does it kind of vary depending on who's in that particular group and what the needs may be at that time?
No, especially for the first year, there's a set agenda that's pretty rigid. The women share what we call PDIs, which are pretty damn important presentations, and it is urgent and important matters that they're faced with. So it might be, for the third time, I've hired a salesperson, trained them, and they just quit again. And I can't keep doing this. Please tell me, what am I doing wrong? And so each woman will go around the table and give an update on what's happened with her in the last 30 days. And then we do a triage to determine which of those problems we're going to tackle that day, which ones, seem to be the most acute. And then we will do 3 or 4 of those. And then we go to a planned presentation where somebody has put a lot of time and effort into showing us a specific part of their business. And then there are other exercises and workshops. We are lucky that Petra Coach is doing a killer workshop for us in November, just for members, which is helping all the women set up their strategic plan for 2022. So lots of workshops, and we have guest speakers in. My favorite so far has been the 2 owners of a company in Seattle called Tomboy X. This is an underwear company for the LGBTQ community, and it's about a $90 million company now. And they were guests for BrainTrust, so the members could ask them anything they wanted to ask. And having them share how they learned their numbers. They didn't know how to read a P&L when they started their business. They learned all their numbers from watching Shark Tank.
You never know, but it pays off. All right. Sherry, I'm going to cut you off for just a second. We're going to take one more quick break, and then we'll be back to wrap things up with Sherry right after this. Stay with us.